Russia-Ukraine war live, UK will not send its warships to Black Sea to get grain out. As the Russia-Ukraine war entered day 88, invading troops escalated their attacks on east and southern Ukrainian city. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky extended martial law for 3 months to August 22. Poland's President Andrzej Duda became the first foreign leader to address Ukraine's parliament in person since the war began on February 24. UK will not send Royal Navy warships to Black Sea to get grain out. UK will not send Royal Navy warships to the Black Sea to get stranded grain out of the blockaded Ukrainian port of Odessa, a British government official. This comes as Lithuania's Foreign Minister, Gabrielius Landsbergis, said he had spoken to his UK counterpart, Liz Truss, to help establish protective corridor from the port of Odessa, The Times had reported. Putin's despicable blockade of Odessa is preventing food getting to people who need it. We will continue to work intensively with international partners to find ways to resume the export of grain from Ukraine, the official reportedly said. He asserted that UK will not deploy its warships to the Black Sea as the move could be escalatory. Russia refutes report its military using appliances parts in military equipment. Russia has denied that its forces are using the household appliances spare parts in defense equipment and assembling it aboard Russian ships in the Caspian Sea. Ukrainian propagandists find it difficult to explain what specific elements from household appliances can be used in the most complex electronics of a Navy ship. Also, not a single specific case is given where a washing machine would have to be disassembled to repair a combat unit, said Russia's Ministry of Defense. It added, as for microelectronics manufacturers, there are enough resources in the Russian Federation. In addition, Russia intends to join efforts in the production of microelectronics with Belarus in order to fully provide for the military. Ukraine accuses Russian thieves of stealing Ukrainian grain. Ukraine's foreign minister, Dmytro Kuleba, has condemned Russian troops labeling them as thieves for stealing Ukraine's grains and loading it on ships and then passing through the Bosphorus. He then asked the Allies to speed up deliveries of weapons and ammunition, especially MLRS, multiple rocket launch systems, long-range artillery, APCs, armored personnel carriers. He asked the countries not to buy Ukraine's stolen grain and become accomplices to Russian crimes. Theft has never brought anyone luck, he said. 200 bodies found in ruins of Mariupol high-rise building, Ukraine's. A Ukrainian official from the Russian-controlled port city of Mariupol said that officials have discovered at least 200 bodies in the rubble of a ruined high-rise. Petro Andryashenko, advisor to the Mariupol mayor Vadim Boychenko, said in a statement on Telegram that the bodies were found trapped underneath the concrete in what would have been the basement of the high-rise infrastructure. Due to the refusal of locals to collect and pack up the bodies of the dead, the Russian Ministry of Emergencies left the site, Andryashenko said. The bodies of the dead remained in place. The stench can be smelled almost throughout the quarter due to partially dismantled debris. Blinken, Ukrainian counterpart Kuleba discuss global food crisis, war. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Ukrainian counterpart Dmytro Kuleba held a phone call and discussed ways to get the Ukrainian grain out of the country as Russians have blocked the Black Sea ports, according to a statement from the U.S. state. Blinken also detailed Kuleba on $40 billion aid approved by President Biden. The secretary again underscored the United States' strong support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity in the face of Moscow's aggression, said State Department spokesperson. The secretary noted the global food security crisis resulting from President Putin's brutal war requires a global response, and they discussed potential means to export Ukraine's grain to international markets. He added. Russia's attack in Donbas, largest on EU soil since World War II, says Kyiv. Ukraine's foreign minister, Dmytro Kuleba, said the Russia's attack in the Donbas is the largest one on European soil since World War II. He said that it is too early to conclude that Kyiv has all the weapons to defend itself against the Russian offensive, as he demanded for more. In a tweet, Kuleba asked the Allies to speed up deliveries of weapons and ammunition, especially MLRS, multiple rocket launch systems, long-range artillery, APCs, armored personnel carriers. Buying Russian gas wrong, it's dangerous, NATO chief warns EU. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg at the World Economic Forum warned the European countries that buying as much gas from Russia as we want is wrong. He warned world leaders gathered at the WEF meeting not to look at economic benefits at the expense of freedom and security. Freedom is more important than free trade, Stoltenberg said. He asked the WEF to abstain from Chinese technology in 5G networks, and the Nord Stream 2 pipeline for Russia. It provides Russia with a tool to intimidate and to use against us, and that has been clearly demonstrated now, I regret to say, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said. Germany's Scholz says it is unacceptable to side with Russia. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has said that it is unacceptable to side with Russia as it continues to wage a war in Ukraine. During a visit to South Africa, Scholz said, "There are some countries that have voted on the side of Russia. That I cannot accept, and it is unacceptable." Scholz held a joint news conference with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in Pretoria. US uses terrorists as geopolitical tool, claims Moscow. A top Russian security official, on May 24, accused the United States of using terrorist organizations as a geopolitical tool. In an interview with the Argumenty Fakti Monthly, Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev stated that terrorist organizations are frequently used by the U.S. as a geopolitical tool, particularly against. Patrushev used a proverb to describe Western countries' attempts to accuse Russia of state-level terrorism. He referenced the proverb, "God marks the crook." NATO chief says alliance going to welcome 2 new countries. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg has said that the alliance is going to welcome 2 new countries, Finland and Sweden, and that he is confident in addressing Turkey's concerns over Finland's and Sweden's membership. Speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Stoltenberg said that NATO is ready to welcome the 2 countries as members. He reiterated that the bloc had to cut off Russian energy and its reliance on China for technology infrastructure. Freedom is more important than free trade, NATO chief said. Sanction draining Putin's war machine, says EU's Ursula von der Leyen. Sanctions against Russia instated by the EU, US, UK and the ally nations are draining Putin's war machine, EU's Ursula von der Leyen told the World Economic Forum in Davos. She warned that the bloc will continue to negotiate even harsher measures to weaken Russia's aggressive military activity on Ukrainian soil. European Commission President also iterated that Russia's war on Ukraine is not just a matter of Ukraine's survival or EU security, but puts our whole global order in question. Russia is waging total war in Ukraine, says Zelensky. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia is waging total war on his country, and that includes inflicting as many casualties and as much infrastructure destruction. Zelensky made the comments in his nightly address Monday, the eve of the 3-month anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In it, he noted that since February 24, the Russian army has launched 1,474 missile strikes on Ukraine, using 2,275 different missiles. He said the vast majority hit civilian targets. There have been more than 3,000 Russian airstrikes over that period. Indeed, there has not been such a war on the European continent for 77 years, he said. Zelensky said an attack on the town of Desna, 55 kilometers, 34 miles, north of Kyiv, resulted in 87 deaths. The Russians have now concentrated their forces on Donbas cities like Bakhmut, Popasnaya, and Severodonetsk, Zelensky said. He called on Ukrainians who are not on the battlefield to help in whatever way they can and said his own task was working to increase international pressure on Russia. The absolute priority is weapons and ammunition for Ukraine. Russia weaponizing food supplies, says EU's von der Leyen. Russia is weaponizing food supplies using same tactic it has used with energy, EU's Ursula von der Leyen told the World Economic Forum Tuesday. She urged the international community to end Moscow's blackmail. Her remarks came after UK Transport Secretary Grant Shapps warned that the deaths from global food shortages waged by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Black Sea port blockade could be even greater than the lives lost in the UN. Britain accused Russia of spreading disinformation online. United States and Britain on May 24 accused Russia of spreading disinformation online and manipulating public opinion about the war in Ukraine. They also rejected Russia's claims that the West is aiming to control all information flows and define what is true or not true. Britain's Deputy Ambassador James Roscoe told a UN Security Council meeting on the use of digital technologies in maintaining peace that Russia has conducted cyber attacks and used an online troll factory to spread disinformation and manipulate public opinion. US Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield said the Russian government continues to shut down, restrict and degrade internet connectivity, censor content, spread disinformation online, and intimidate and arrest journalists for reporting the truth about its invasion. Russia's UN Ambassador Vasily Nebenzia accused countries that call themselves a community of democracies of building a cyber totalitarianism and along with technology giants like Meta of shutting down Russian TV channels, expelling Russian journalists and blocking access to outgoing Philippine President Duterte lambasted Putin. "I don't kill children." Outgoing Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte sharply criticized Russian leader Vladimir Putin for the killings of innocent civilians in Ukraine, saying while the two of them have been tagged as killers, "I kill criminals, I don't kill children." And Duterte, who openly calls Putin an idol and a friend, voiced his rebuke for the first time over Russia's invasion of Ukraine in remarks aired Tuesday where he blamed the 3-month-old war for the spike in global oil prices that has battered many countries, including the Philippines. While stressing he was not condemning the Russian president, Duterte disagreed with Putin's labeling of the invasion as a special military operation, and said it was really a full-scale war waged against the sovereign. Addressing Putin as a friend and the Russian embassy in Manila, Duterte urged them to stop bombing and firing artillery rounds on residential areas and allow innocent civilians to safely evacuate before launching a bomb. "I'm on the way out and I don't know how to solve the problem," Duterte said. "You have to solve the war between Ukraine and Russia before we can talk of even returning to normal." Russian forces intensify efforts to encircle and capture Severodonetsk. British military intelligence has noted that the Russian forces have intensified efforts to encircle and capture Severodonetsk and neighboring cities, the only part of the Luhansk region that remains under Ukrainian government. UK's Ministry of Defence, in a briefing posted Tuesday morning, disclosed that the northern and southern arms of the Russian operation are currently separated by about 25 kilometers, 15 miles, of Ukrainian-held. Russian forces have achieved some localized successes despite strong resistance from Ukrainian troops that occupy well-dug-in defensive positions. Russian official seeks space in Kherson region. A Russian installed official in Ukraine's Kherson region has said that the region's pro-Kremlin administration will ask Moscow to set up a military base. There should be a Russian military base in the Kherson region, deputy head of the Russia-installed administration in Kherson Kirill Stremosov was quoted as saying by the Russian state news agency RIA Novosti. "We will be asking for it. The entire population is interested in it. It is vitally important and will become a security guarantee for the region and its residents."